Hey everyone, welcome back. And today I'm gonna be doing what if Spain decides to form an empire. So Spain already formed another empire, which was the Spanish Empire, but that already fell with the colonies gaining independence. So with this, Spain decides to go imperial, and then with this, they already have their plans. They declare war on Portugal and Andorra. So, Andorra already fell a while ago, and then they start any entry into Portugal. And then with this, Portugal falls. So let's look at the peace treaty. So here's the peace treaty. We see Portugal and Andorra being fully annexed by Spain. So then next, they decide that they will want to form their old empire back. So they go over to South and Central America. They need any easy country to conquer or invade and then to make them theirs. So they decide they would want to go to the Caribbean islands. Next, they would declare war on Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, and Cuba all at the same time. So with this, they easily take out Puerto Rico and Jamaica. And then next they start any small landing into Cuba. And then eventually, with the many landings happening in the island of Cuba, Cuba surrenders. Next, with Haiti, they already surrendered, and then since they're there, they already invaded the Dominican Republic. So let's look at the peace treaty. So here's the peace treaty. We see that them four countries have been turned into one single colony. Then next, since they have the advantage of staying in Central America, they decide to declare war on Belize. So, with already any landing happening in northern Belize and in southern Belize, eventually their capital falls and then the country falls. And then since they're there, they might as well declare war on Guatemala. So then with this, with the troops already stationed in Belize, they already start going. And then eventually their coast is gone, and then their capital falls, and then Guatemala surrenders. And then since they're there, they think that it's very easy. So they declare war on three countries: El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. So with this, they start advancing, easily destroying El Salvador, and then entering into Honduras. And then eventually, their capital falls, making them surrender. And then next, they start a full-scale invasion into Nicaragua. And then next, their capital falls, and so does their country. Next, they believe that's so easy, so they declare war on Costa Rica and Panama. But with Panama having the Panama Canal, which is by US control, the US decides to join the war. So Spain decides to go over to the States and tell them that they would still have the Panama Canal if they would be able to control it. So with the States realizing this, they decide that they can leave the war. And then with the States leaving the war, that already puts the two countries into grave danger. So then, they start an invasion, capturing Costa Rica very quickly, soon going to Panama. So let's look at the peace treaty. So here's the peace treaty. We see another colony being formed in Central America. Next, they decided that they would need more countries and landings in South America to make this more easy. So through the Panama Canal, they decided to declare war on Ecuador, Guyana, and Suriname. So with this, they already start advancing. Next, Guyana and Suriname falls. And then, Ecuador is a little bit stronger. So, Ecuador is able to hold off a few major landings. But then eventually, a big landing was formed. And then their coastline is gone. And then soon, Ecuador falls. So with this, since they're there, they could start an invasion into Colombia and Venezuela. So that's what they do. They declare war on Colombia and Venezuela. And then, with them two fighting in a three-front war, they are able to extend their front line very much, eventually threatening Bogota, and then threatening Caracas. Eventually Caracas falls, and then Venezuela surrenders. And then with this, with Colombia have to fight in a three-front war, eventually now it's a one-front, and then eventually Bogota is captured, and then Colombia surrenders. So let's look at the peace treaty. So here's the peace treaty. We see that Panama got transferred from the Central American colony to the South American colony, bringing the territory similar to Gran Colombia. So then next, they decided to go over to Peru and send them an ultimatum asking for their territory as a colony. And then with Peru being already fearing of being destroyed, eventually they accept the ultimatum and then become a colony. Next, they go over to Bolivia, asking them to become a colony for they could also have ocean access. So, Bolivia decides to become a colony and then merges with Peru. Next, they go over to Chile and then colony. And then soon, they send them another ultimatum over to Paraguay. They accept, and Uruguay they also accept. And then with the two strongest country already left standing, Argentina and Brazil. With Brazil being the last country to speak Portuguese, probably, except in Africa, but in South America, with the Brazilians being the only one that speaks Portuguese here, they would send them an ultimatum, and Argentina too. So, Argentina decides to give them a little bit of land, but not all of it. They would give enough land for them they could connect to their other colony in Uruguay. So, they give them that territory, but eventually the Spanish won't stop expanding south. So, with them realizing that it'll be an invasion, they declare a war in Argentina. So, the Spanish troops are already going in, soon capturing Buenos Aires. And then a few more months later, Argentina decides to surrender. And then with this, Brazil got mad and then declared war on Spain. And with it, the Spanish troops already bordered, they started a massive invasion. And then soon, they lost a lot of land. Brasilia, or whatever their capital was, is captured. Next, they decided to invade French Guiana, which led France to join the war. So then with this, French Guiana already falls. And then over here in France, the Spanish troops start pulling their troops out of South America to go back to the European theater. So then with this, they start advancing, pass through the mountains, capturing their coastline, and then capturing their island. Soon, Paris is being threatened, and then soon, Paris falls. And then with this, they decide to might as well declare war on the Benelux, which they already surrender. And then they go over to Germany asking for an ultimatum, asking for a little bit of territory. And then, with the fear of them being destroyed, they give up a little bit of territory, which it does harm them, but not so much. And then they decide to leave Denmark alone with the Scandinavias, and then soon Spain decides that this will be the empire after the peace treaty. So let's look at the peace treaty. So here's the peace treaty in Europe. They managed to annex all of France, all of the Benelux, and half of Germany. And then over here in South America, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, and Argentina decides to unite into one colony, and Brazil is just one colony. So, with Spain deciding to end their empire, they decide to finish off their empire by sending off one more ultimatum, and that's over to Mexico. So, Spain asks all of Mexico to join the colony, and then they refuse. So they declare war, and then with the Spanish being unprepared, they are able to advance a little, but not too much. But then a few years later go by, they're all militarized, and then they start advancing. And then soon, Mexico City falls, and then eventually they surrender. So let's look at the peace treaty. So here's the peace treaty. We see Mexico being fully annexed into the Central American colony. So with this, Spain decides to conclude their empire since they don't want to mess with the states. So then, here's the Spanish Empire. Hopefully y'all liked the video, and I'll see you on the next one.